Minister responsible for immigration, citizenship, and refugees. One of the most important portfolios in this country, Honorable Ahmed Hussain. I'm going to digress for a minute.
Yes.
There's some issues that we have that will be, concerning colleagues in your government, which we hope you would pass on to them.
Okay.
Because you're a lawyer and you've also studied both immigration law and you practice criminal law as well.
Yes.
Canada's policies with respect to copyright and intellectual property rights are a bit outdated.
Okay.
Most other affluent nations have adapted more modern tools in terms of fighting the new digital era of internet piracy. Whereas here we seem to be living still in the analog world, where things have all changed a lot. With the broadcast industry, there are some tremendous problems that our industry is facing with respect to signal theft of IPTV boxes, which are illegal in this country. They're stealing the signals of not only Canadian signals, but for our overseas signals, for which we all pay huge residual royalty rights for that matter. And that's been pilfered. So people are leaving the legitimate system of cord cutting with cable, and when they do that, they are not just moving to Netflix, which we don't mind, because that's a legitimate organization, because they pay license fees. But they move to these piracy platforms on the IPTV platform, whereby there's underground economy being created in Canada to a tune of millions of dollars, massive, which means the government of Canada has lost a huge amount of taxes.
I see.
So all legitimate organizations in this field, we all formed a coalition together, which included the biggest of companies like Rogers, Bell, Schott, CTV, CBC, TSN, Rogers Sportsnet, the film industry, Producers Guild, Directors Guild, the unions, Unifor, everybody came, coming together. Toronto International Film Festival, everybody endorsed it and made a submission.
My name is Sedu. I edit the television shows you watch.
My name is Shweti and I'm program assistant at television industry. Oh, I love the people working over here.
My name is Peggy. I'm a hairstylist in the film and television industry. I've always loved just making people look good because it makes them feel good.
My name is Ajaz. I'm technical director. I have been working in the television industry for 35 years.
My name is Frank. I build the sets that you see on film and television.
Internet piracy might take that away from me. I'm not sure tomorrow I have a job or not.
If everything's being stolen and taken just by downloading it, where is the money coming from then? How are we going to continue to make the projects that everyone loves?
Theft is theft, and my job is on the line.
Online piracy probably affects all different levels of production. I don't think a lot of people actually understand the impact that piracy is actually having on people like me and my co-workers.
If we don't stop online piracy, it will affect on my job. My job supports my family.
Fair Play Canada is a coalition of more than 30 organizations.
Unfortunately, the CRTC, with all due respect, said, I'm sorry, this is not in our jurisdiction. Anybody that we have spoken to, some of your colleagues, they're all brilliant people, by the way. We have a lot of respect for them. Each one wants to help by saying, yes, we want to help. But at the end of the day, the government has been absolutely, for lack of a better word, very lethargic. Perhaps it's not a priority for them. Maybe it's not a vote-getting issue for them either. But I don't think they've seen the seriousness of this, because there are 625,000 jobs in this country. And if we lose 100,000 jobs over the next 3 to 5 years, this will make SNC-Lavalin look like chicken feed. Why would a government that's usually pretty bright, where would this lethargy come from? Why would this incompetency come from? I would like you very much to take it back to your colleagues.
Sure.
But as an industry, I'm not the only spokesman for the industry. There are much more eloquent people than me who can describe this better. The frustration is coming out of our passion in this industry.
Okay.
And if this issue is not addressed, I think a lot of legitimate people in this industry can be phased out.
Okay, I wasn't aware of the issue until you reached out to me and explained it in great detail, and I appreciate that input, and I will certainly pass the message over.
I would like you to very much pass the message, and I'm hoping that something concrete would happen, because they did set up, of course, a broadcast television review panel. It's called BTLR, which is wonderful. But then the sad part is that by that time your election is over. It might be the problem, either you inherit again and you have to still solve it.
I see.
Or you might put it in the laps, of an opposition party who might have to tackle this problem.
Okay.
But I want you to see what the Prime Minister told me when we discussed this. We are very delighted and honored to welcome back the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Justin, what a pleasure to see you again.
Oh, thank you, Shan. What a pleasure to come back to see you, to CATN, the extraordinary studios you've built here, the amazing work you do connecting the stories of Canada right across the country and around the world. Even.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words.
There's more things that obviously we can do here in Canada, but I think at the same time, it's going to take a level of international engagement. It falls into diplomacy and convincing other countries to respect our intellectual property regimes, to respect our copyright regimes, which isn't always an easy discussion to have. But we're continuing to build strong and positive relationships with countries around the world, and highlight how important it is that we move forward in a thoughtful way instead of a race to the bottom where everyone's going to lose.
Well, at least, even if it's not on an international basis, I think within the Canadian border itself, Industry Canada can become a bit more stricter about import of illegal goods into Canada with respect to these electronic devices, unauthorized piracy boxes in the IPTV industry. I'm just giving examples. So would there be at least an initiative that the government would at least take a look at it?
We make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect Canadian creators and enforcing the integrity of our borders and protecting consumers at the same time. So I know we're working on that.
Hearty congratulations on a very successful United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement. We are very excited about, there's one aspect there which is of very significance for us in the broadcast industry,
yes,
which is really copyright enforcement. So we are very thrilled with that, and we hope that United States will motivate Canada not to let grass grow under its feet.
I know that you and the station here are doing an awful lot of work in that area, so I commend you, and I know under the USMCA that is an important component that we will continue to work towards. So.
Thank you.
So congratulations on your work in that area.
Appreciate that very much. Any help we can get from the U.S. government would be deeply indebted.
Thank you.
Now I want you to see what Navdeep Bains told me.
Well, first of all, for me, it's an honor and privilege to be here having this opportunity to speak with you. As a young kid growing up, I got to watch you on television, so thank you very much for this.
It's such a pleasure.
So you've raised some very good issues. One is around the Copyright Act and the review that's taking place, so that's definitely due. And we're in the process of reviewing the Copyright Act, and the issues that you raised around piracy, around concerns for consumers, around the challenges the artists will face and the creative content that's being created.
Absolutely.
Those issues will be discussed extensively. We're also going to be reviewing the Telecommunications Act and the Broadcasting Act, as you mentioned.
Wonderful.
We have such a vibrant creative community in Canada. We want to maintain and enhance that. Canadian content is critical. We have such a dynamic creative industry as well. So what measures, what protections, what issues can we deal with to make sure that through copyright, as you mentioned, and other challenges that we're dealing with, digital platforms as well, of how to protect Canadian content, how to promote Canadian content. And this is where I work very closely with Melanie Joly, the Minister of Heritage, who is really a champion of this issue. So we're going to be working on this through the review of the Telecommunications Act and the Broadcasting Act.
Now I want you to see what Melanie Joly told me when she came here.
This is something we're really looking at, and we've been hearing it from broadcasters, we've been hearing it also from producers, and even when I was in California recently, well actually last May, I met with US production studios, which really highlighted the importance of that. So that's something, of course, we will be studying in the context of the revision of the Copyright Act. And as a government, we always said that intellectual property is extremely important. When we invest in our creators, we want to make sure that their intellectual property rights are upheld and that they're protected. And so that's something we're looking at in order to support great content, in order to support our industries and the jobs here in the country. You were referring to interesting data beforehand about the breadth of the sector. It's $55 billion altogether. It's 630,000 jobs.
Wow.
And so therefore, we've always been there to support the sector as a government. And of course, when a creator, maybe in film or television and music, is putting his heart, soul, and money in creating a piece, a work, well, of course, we don't want all that value robbed.
Absolutely.
And pirated.
Absolutely.
So that's not the idea. The idea is for government to make sure that the rights in this country are upheld and well educated.
Yeah.
So that's something we will be looking at for sure.
And one of our fears is also that when organized crime gets involved in it, it's be very sad, because when crooks become rich, they can even become noble. Now, unfortunately, things did not move to the extent that we would have liked to have, helped the industry. Then I want you to listen to what your opposition leader, Andrew Scheer, told me when he came here.
You've got people who, produce wonderful shows, who produce content, and Canadians want to access it, people around the world. That all has to be done in a fair way. And when people, production companies or individuals, actors or writers, put all that work in, and then someone is able to basically pirate the signal, and then that's not fair, that's not right. And that is actually going to have a very negative effect on our ability to expand our cultural components, because there won't be the ability for people to make a living telling our stories and producing that type of cultural content. So I do believe, yes, I do believe that we need to have a look at that. We've talked a lot as a Conservative Party about greater protection for intellectual property and copyright, which is the foundation of what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And when you see more and more elements operate in a very sophisticated way, this isn't just like a young person figuring out how to tinker with a box and get more access. In many cases, these are being sold and distributed in a very sophisticated network, often linked with other types of criminal elements. And we do need the RCMP to look into this, and some extra tools to the government's disposal to protect those people who are doing it lawfully, who are engaged in it the right way.
Well, a lot of the work that is done to combat piracy is being done by trade associations and chambers of commerce.
Wow.
And so they are collective organizations that enable us to attack some of the most difficult problems that individual businesses confront and might not be able to deal with by themselves. And so, think about ATN. Piracy is obviously a major problem for the networks. You can't take this on yourself. You want to be part of a group. And so whether it's the MPAA or chambers of commerce or your own nonprofit organizations that you form to create anti-piracy initiatives, the collective action is what's making whatever progress is being made in the anti-piracy efforts.
In the field of copyright and implementation of the piracy that we have in the IPTV industry with the Android boxes which are out there, where technology has been used to really manipulate and illegally sell content. What does one take to convert something of this from a civil to a criminal offense?
Well, I guess it would start with the awareness piece and making sure that government is aware of its importance and the impact that it's having. And then from there, making sure that the federal government really takes a better look at it. It's definitely just listening to you and the impact that I didn't realize that the impact was that severe, which means the community probably doesn't understand that type of impact and how it causes loss of jobs. So I guess the more the public becomes aware of its impact, I mean, even me learning that amount of impact is key and critical to go forward.
People who are involved in television production, broadcasting, and film industry in this country are tremendously affected by major copyright violation and infringement. About the illegal internet IPTV piracy is a serious problem. We hope that people like you who come from the law enforcement background would be able to make a greater contribution when you get into government to change their mindset and thinking. Is there a possibility at all that you could change this from a civil offense to a criminal offense by at least presenting, your own private member's bill, or convincing the government to do something like that down the road? Is there a possibility?
There's different levels of government. We have the federal, we have the provincial, and we have the municipal. So it all falls under the federal government issue. In my experience in policing, which was before the Android boxes came into play, the IPTV boxes came into play, we couldn't even go into a video shop as a police service and charge somebody for a piracy issue because it's a federal thing. a federal matter, and we would always have to wait for the RCMP to come in with their search warrant and with their policies, and then we would go with the RCMP and raid those shops that had those pirated videos. So the same instance we talk about with the IPTV boxes, with the Android issue, it's a federal issue. It's something that the federal government will have to look at, and hopefully, to have laws enacted in place so that we can counter these illegal acts that's happening, the piracy that's happening. And I'll be happy to look at that. Once I get to Ottawa with my experience in policing, I would be happy to look at something like that, to how we can improve on the system and how we can make it better for all Canadians, and especially for all the media companies, right, that are like the big companies that are in Canada, and hopefully that it can help them improve their service and help them improve their organization and their needs.
If you can hear all these different views, we have no other choice to think when a matter is so serious, and we've discussed it with some important people, and it's music to our ear when somebody says, I will take action and I will do it within a certain number of days if I come to power. Mm-hmm. This message I would like you to take back and mention to your colleagues.
Okay.
If you can kindly have them give us some feedback, because this is not dying there. This is going to become very serious. It's not only with us.
Okay.
The entire industry is rallying behind it.
That's okay. So that's good to know, and I will certainly pass your message.
I appreciate that.